Anduin, having survived his ordeal with domination. Yes, look at the art. Oh, incredible artwork. Anduin will be grappling with his relationship to the holy light that he no longer feels worthy of, while Thrall is seeking a connection to these visions, spreading across the world and working to find his new place in the Horde, while Magni Bronzebeard, long the Speaker of Azeroth, will confront the heavy weight of that responsibility once and for all. Champion! The Wounds Champion! Yes! But that brings us to, I know you saw this in the features trailer, Alleria Windrunner. Alleria's journey will be central to the events and themes of the War Within, as she, a Void Hunter, will use all of her prowess to hunt down the Harbinger while being torn between her own nature and the maddening call of the Void to which she is attuned. Along the adventure, she will have a unique rivalry with Xal'atac, whose twists and turns will come to define the nature of this new conflict. Of course, we'll see many more familiar faces on our journey and meet a host of new and interesting characters along the way that Maria is going to tell you more about in just a moment. But finally, this saga is only just beginning. Conceived to be... Yes! Conceived to be an epic worthy of the first 20 years of World of Warcraft, the World Soul Saga aims to redefine the storytelling in our expansion set and strike boldly at the core themes that define Warcraft. The might of heroes, the responsibility of that power, the pursuit of justice. Got to do my best Mets in there. Justice! And the importance of finding common ground as well as ourselves amidst adversity. Up next, may I introduce Maria Hamilton, who will be sharing more about our zones and cultures in the War Within. Thank you so much.
Hello, BlizzCon. Wow, I am so excited to be here and delighted to represent our team and tell you about the places that we will explore and the cultures we will encounter in the War Within. I can't really see all of you out there. I know there's a lot of you though because I can hear you. And I hope to hear lots of oohs and ahs when you see some of this cool art I've got to show you. So let's get started. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Nothing you wouldn't have done for me.
Okay. As Taryn mentioned earlier, we'll be called by the Radiant Song, dreamlike visions that come from the heart of the Azeroth. This summons is going to lead us to the subcontinent of Khaz-Algar, a place long forgotten. It's only through recent explorations in Uldaman that we've discovered a Watcher report concerning a contingent of Earthen that was sent to this place long, long ago to investigate a fissure in the sector. What exactly that means, we don't really know, but we could probably speculate. So first, let's talk about the Earthen. Ooh, there you go, there you go. All right, we have met Titan-forged Earthen before, of course, in Ulduar and other places. But this society of Earthen has been isolated within Khaz-Algar for a really long time and have developed their own manners and customs. Now, visually, these Earthen are a bit larger in stature, and they're noticeably blinged out. They've got gems all over them, bedazzled, blinged out, you know, that kind of thing, right? But philosophically, they are guided by the Edicts of the Titans, a set of codified orders, duties, and expectations that provide instructions for the core functions of their society. You know, Titans, order, all that, right? But the Titans have been absent for eons, and the Earthen are no longer united in their adherence to these edicts. They now exist as three groups that are estranged from each other. The Oathsworn, as their name suggests, still uphold the edicts faithfully and believe everyone else is doing it wrong. Their charge is guarding the Core Way, a Titan passageway that leads right to the core of Azeroth. They're primarily the city dwellers. They live conveniently near the object of their responsibility, that Core Way. Now, the Unbound, in contrast, have abandoned the edicts, and they are considered scandalously rebellious by the Oathsworn. Their original responsibility was providing the materials to keep the Titan installations supplied, and they're primarily rural. They're living in and around the quarries and the mines where natural resources can be acquired. They rarely interact with the city dwellers. They feel neglected and ignored because they have a different opinion on how they should live. Now, the machine speakers have strayed from the edicts in practice, but not with respect to their overall obligation to keep the Titan works functioning. They've had extremely limited contact with the surface dwellers, and they express no little disdain for those who just don't understand the great machines. Their homes are built around vast industrial projects under the surface that allow them to perform their functions in accordance with edicts, more or less. These different perspectives among the Earthen and their variable adherence to the Titan's edicts has weakened the society as originally structured. And that's not good, of course, but a much more serious problem is their steadily dwindling numbers. For reasons that I'm not going to get into here and now, New Earthen can't exist until we help them out by doing some things and unite the Earthen society once more. Happily, as a result of our actions, the Earthen will eventually be unlocked as an allied race. Yeah, they look sweet, don't they? Yeah. These player Earthen will replenish the culture's dwindling numbers and may join either the Horde or the Alliance. Yeah. It is, of course, player's choice which side you wish to ally with. But as you can see from a small sampling of combinations, there's some fantastic variations and customizations coming for the Earthen model, including different gem incrustations, beards for all body types, rocky skin patterns, tones, and more. Now that golden mohawk with the braids and the fringe beard, that's quite the look. But I really like the beardless guy with the bushy blonde eyebrows. He looks so cool. He's just kind of like, yep, what do you want me to do? So anyway, all right, moving on. Another cool culture that players will encounter in the War Within is the Arathi. Yeah? Yep, and you probably have questions, right? So these are descendants of the original Arathorian Empire, and they've arrived relatively recently and through some somewhat mysterious circumstances. And they find themselves trapped here within Khazalgar. Mysterious mostly because I can't say anything more about it just yet because of spoilers, but it's not like spooky mysterious, it's the other kind. As a people, the Arathi are worshippers and wielders of holy fire. They are dedicated to bringing hope and light to the darkness. They're tough, resilient people, with every member of the society being an able combatant. Some few are further blessed with paladin-like abilities through their devotion to the light. Even their airships are powered by sacred flame. The extent to which they're comfortable in battle is probably a good thing, because they have established a home away from home in an enormous cavern bordered by an endless underground sea, from which terrifying creatures emerge to rampage and create havoc. Not my idea of a cool place to hang out, but they're really, really tough. These watery monstrosities, though, are nothing compared to the threat from below. A constant swarm of Nerubians has been held back, so far, from invading the Arathi lands. The assault is unrelenting, the threat is dire, and the Arathi can't hold much longer. These bastions of light against the darkness are far from home and limited in number. It would be terrible if there was also division within the Arathi ranks. Just saying. That would be pretty rough, what with them being so outnumbered. We could probably help them. Alright, speaking of the Nerubians in the War Within, we'll explore their last kingdom deep within Khazalgar. These ancient survivors of the Black Empire who rejected their former masters have developed their own culture here in the deep darkness. As Terran mentioned earlier, Xalatath has made a bargain with the Nerubian queen Ansarek, who seeks a new future and renewed glory for her people. The Nerubians are extremely capable and devious adversaries who have been honing their skills with their constant assault on the Arathi. But domination hasn't come fast enough for the Queen's taste, as the Arathi has managed to hold against this onslaught. So this deal with the Harbinger has included some assistance for her troops. Through some dark alchemical process, Xalatath has provided the knowledge required to evolve chosen Nerubians into paragons of their race, enhancing their viciousness. And Queen Anserek has embraced these modifications with enthusiasm and eagerly offered her army to achieve the Harbinger's schemes. It appears to be a win-win situation. But not all Nerubians share their sovereign's enthusiasm for change and her embrace of Xalatath. Shadowy figures with far too many limbs maneuver against the Harbinger's plans in opposition to the Queen's desire. As you might expect, any foray into this Nerubian kingdom introduces us to a variety of citizens, including some forms we've never encountered before. Here's a layout of some of the Nerubian models that are completed and also some that are in progress, as well as scale reference for goblins and humans
Always
to just get a
glad to
sense of
help.
size. In addition to the Nerubian citizens, there are also domesticated insects who serve the kingdom as beasts of burden and pets. The team is hard at work building out the full range of carapaces, carapae, I don't know, whichever, skittering legs, grabby arms, piercing spiky bits, and creepy eyes for you to enjoy, I guess. All right, let's talk about our zones. The surface of Khazalgar is our first zone, called the Isle of Dorn. This is the home of the earthen surface dwellers, as well as other native species of creatures. The fertile soil, flowering plant life, and generous waterways provide nourishment for animals in this untouched paradise. An important facet of earthen society is Cinderbrew mead. This volatile substance is manufactured from molten honey, produced by enormous fiery bees. Their home groves are a remarkable sight, as the hearts of the trees themselves glow with lava-like fluid. Harvesting is always an exciting time, as the ferocious creatures are understandably protective of their hives. Now, the roosts at Storm Watch are wreathed with lightning and fierce winds. These wild elemental rooks may choose to serve a member of the Oathsworn, who, if so blessed, becomes a Storm Rider, one of the guardian warriors of the earthen people. The Unbound deal with hostile creatures from time to time, but for their most part, the existence is relatively peaceful, fairly sort of peaceful. Their comfortable homes are often situated near the places where they once labored as adherents to the edicts. Those sites are now in disrepair, and in some cases, the lair of other creatures. Of course, the Isle of Dorn boasts a great walled city where the Oathsworn live and serve the edicts of the Titans. The city of Dornagal is the location of many important civic buildings, markets, traders, and crafters. And it's here that a traveler will find the expected amenities of a capital city, as well as the Titan Causeway, the defense of which is the Oathsworn's primary charge. Now, beneath the surface of the Isle of Dorn lies our second zone, the Ringing Deeps. As the name suggests, it is here that the Earthen are engaged in their work in accordance with the edicts. In these industrial areas of this cavernous space are huge, complicated machines, lava-heated foundries and forges, and waterworks, both to cool and to power huge machinery. Maintaining these Titan mechanisms and keeping everything running is both the responsibility and the passion of the machine speakers. The Earth has shifted too in places, revealing openings to the sky above to the Isle of Dorn. These cenotes bring light and water into areas once shrouded in darkness. Abundant greenery, flowers, and creatures that do not typically dwell in caverns may be found in these idyllic spots. It was really important to us as developers that we delivered the fantasy of the hard-working industry, but still had some break-up areas of natural beauty that don't feel like dark, constrained tunnels. Now, as the machine speaker population has dropped, they've had increasing difficulties with kobold incursions, and indeed the kobolds have taken over the mines, the work areas. They've even built a city of their own. Unexpectedly, the kobolds are actually becoming a force to be reckoned with under the aggressive actions of their leader, the Candle King. You knew it had to be a candle. No take candle. No take candle. With the passage of time, the Earthen have diminished both in number and in the knowledge required to perform the various routines to tune and repair the processes. Old ways have been forgotten, and new creative methods must be employed if the edicts are to be obeyed. So they're kind of making it up as they go along. From the ringing deeps, we descend further into Khazalgar to reach Hollowfall, a vast hollow area in the earth, bordered by an endless underground sea. This tenuous foothold under the bright light of an enormous crystal has allowed the Arathi to survive. Using their airships to travel to high plateaus and establish docks, light
Always
towers,
glad to help.
villages,
Nothing
and
you
even
wouldn't
a
have done for
priory.
me.
From their
At your
capital of
service.
Merildar, these
Always
trapped
glad to
people
help.
strive to keep hope alive and spread the light, while engaged in a near constant battle with the Nerubians at their borders. The open spaces, the bright light, and the greenery are intended to feel as though we're on the surface, somehow, rather than in this sort of strange hollow within Azeroth. The crystal provides brilliant light, warmth, and growth for vegetation. You may notice that all the blooming plants have opened their blossoms toward the light and seem to be reaching in that direction whenever they're in Hollowfall. Unfortunately, the crystal sun has been changing in recent years. Where once the light was steady and reliable, it now fades without warning, plunging the Arathi into darkness, save where they have built light towers and maintain their holy flame beacons. In the absence of this light, the dangerous Kobis and other fierce creatures emerge from the sea to rampage. As the Arathi are barely holding back the Nerubians, these unpredictable episodes are incredibly demoralizing and deadly. Happily, the light has always returned to the crystal, so far. And at the deepest descent in the war within, we reach the zone of Azj-Kahet. That almost rhymes. Anyway, the Nerubian city of Threads has been built on the ruins of itself, over and over and over again. As areas decay and crumble, a new district is built upon its ruins, and as a result, the city climbs ever higher.
How does a
Those
Tauren
Nerubians
hide
favored
in a
by the
cherry
queen,
tree?
or possessing
He
enormous
paints his
wealth,
hooves red.
or both, command the greatest views and live in the highest places over these swarming masses of the many districts. The Burrows is the home of the scavengers, the forgotten, deep in the decay and the filth. The Umbral Bazaar is a trading hub of fine silks, fascinating alchemical discoveries, and other exotic and hard-to-find goods. The Skanes are the home of the lore keepers and scholars who toil to maintain the history of their people and research myths and legends of Azeroth. There are many other districts and less than savory neighborhoods, both well-known and secret, that the careful adventurer could discover, should they risk life and limb to do so. But the key to such exploration is fitting in among the Nerubians and being accepted, an enterprise best accomplished through skill in the use of pheromones and considerable bravery. The zone of Azj-Kahet features areas of spectacular dark beauty that are inhabited by these creatures that have found a way to live among the Nerubians without being deemed a threat, found to be particularly tasty to consume, or just too much fun to torment. The mobilization of forces to assault the Arathi while also providing military might to achieve Xalatath's schemes has stirred up all sorts of inhabitants of the darkness. And deep within the city itself, the Nerubians are gathering an odd substance, the black blood of the old gods, for some unknown purpose. But I'm sure that's fine. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about our zone flow. As I mentioned, awesome, huh? We travel from the Isle of Dorn into the Ringing Deeps, into Hollowfall, and then into Azj-Kahet. In the War Within, all of our zones are connected all together using the airlock technology that we developed for Zaralek Cavern, allowing for this seamless descent from the Isle of Dorn all the way to Azj-Kahet. That was video I just captured last week of the transition between the Ringing Deeps and Hollowfall. As you can see, we built for dynamic flight, and we were able to flow directly between the zones without the load screen. There is some seriously amazing swoopy goodness to be had moving across these zones and through these spaces. It feels so cool to burst out of a really tight area and into just a huge drop like that. It's so exhilarating. Now, this blobby map that I've got up here was an early attempt during development of our zone flow to try to figure out how we would stack these zones together and achieved the relationship between their geometry that made sense and felt great to traverse. We ended up with something slightly different than this, but this is pretty representative to explain what the world builders were thinking about when they planned these spaces out. It was really important to our design that while 3 of the 4 zones are technically underground, they didn't feel that way, and that they were distinctly different from one another. We pursued that goal by introducing the natural cenotes in the ringing deeps and leaning into the fantasy of the classic underground foundry and industrial workspaces. So even in the zone that felt the tightest, there's places that look as though they're actually on the surface. And within Hollowfall, we created a massive hollow space in a cavern so vast it feels like an exterior, with a huge artificial sun in the form of a gigantic crystal. And in Aj-Kahet, we leaned hard into traditional Nerubian architecture with hanging nests and huge palaces built all over a decaying city that just falls away into the depths. And that is the last bit of eye candy I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this peek at what we've got in development. So now it's time for me to introduce you to Morgan Day, who's going to give you lots of information about dungeons, raids, and systems. Enjoy. Thanks very much. Bye.
Hello, BlizzCon! My name is Morgan Day, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the upcoming content, features, and systems in The War Within. I'm sure I'll also make some funny faces that I'll regret later in thumbnails, but whatever. First up, let's talk about dungeons. There will be 8 new dungeons coming in The War Within, 4 during level up, 1 in each of the 4 zones that Maria just walked us through, as well as 4 at max level. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening in these dungeons. For instance, we have like a kobold dungeon where you'll meet that Candle King, where there's like a light mechanic that takes place. You have to kind of keep it going to light your way. There's a dragon riding dungeon, of course, but also one of my favorites is the Cinderbrew Meadery that Maria just talked us through. So this is a dungeon that takes place on our first zone, the Isle of Dorn, which is where you'll experience, all of our earthen buddies, and this is the place where they make that Cinderbrew mead that she was talking about. They're taking all that honey that they gather from throughout the zone to make the mead, to do all kinds of fun and/or nefarious things with. Although I do have to say, I feel like they're a little bit behind the times. I feel like all the kids are drinking that, hard seltzer or something these days, but whatever. They're old school, I get it. Next up, our raid, the Nerubar Palace. So this is an 8-boss raid that will take place in the zone of Aj-Kahet. And this is really the culmination of all of those machinations we keep hearing about that we see play out between the Nerubian Empire, their queen, and her collaboration with Xal'atath. So for this next one, we don't normally show things this early, but I thought it'd be cool to share. On the left there, you can kind of see the top-down view of the raid, and on the right, it's more of like a side cutout. So we like to work on all of our dungeons and raids when they still look like this, as it's much easier to iterate while we're in 2D than it is to kind of change the zones around once we're in the game and it's all blocked out. So to step us through the raid really quickly, after barging through the front door, you'll very quickly fall and/or get knocked into one of those giant pits of that black blood of the old god that you'll hear much more about in Aj-Kahet. And then you'll battle your way through the harvest pits, and then finally traverse your way back up through the stalactite wing, which is not a final name, I promise, until you finally fight your way into the Queen's inner sanctum, where you'll come face to face with her as the end boss. So as you can see, this will kind of feel like a wing blade in terms of the vibes, but in terms of the player experience, it'll actually be quite a bit more linear than what you might be used to for a raid with some winged vibes. So something that I also think is fun to talk about really quick is, with all of our dungeons and raids, we like to try to explore, what is the thing that's going to make this space feel really unique, that's going to make it stand out from all the other times that we've built these dungeons and raids. And with this space, we really thought that, given that we have the Nerubian to play with, they've got all these amazing, webs and silken threads that you can kind of traverse the zone through. We thought it'd be really fun to explore verticality as a major element to this raid. So I think that'll be really fun to see what the team comes up with for that. Next up, let's talk about systems. So I want to walk you through some of our features and systems at a really high level, but first I want to talk about some of the philosophies that are really guiding us to add these into the War Within. So first and foremost, we really want to continue to extend the philosophies of Dragonflight into the War Within. And really when we talk about that, there's three main pillars that I want to touch on. First, we really want to make sure that we're focusing on evergreen features. We want to make sure that we're making World of Warcraft better forever and not focusing on things that we know we're going to have to leave behind as we move into future expansions. Next, we want to make sure that there's something for everyone. So whether you're a hardcore raider, a PvPer, a collector, or apparently like Holly, you just love to play tons of ults and run around the world exploring things, we want to make sure that there's something in War Within that you can really geek out over and that resonates with you. And finally, we want to make sure that we're continuing to build on our philosophy and build on our systems and content with people who play multiple characters in mind. We want to make sure... Woo! We want to make sure that we're building all of our systems to really respect the time of the player behind the keyboard and not focusing so much on the accomplishments of that individual character. So let's talk about delves. Delves are a new feature that will be integrated into the outdoor world experience, where the fantasy of these is actually that you'll be joining the Dragonscale expedition in their search for lost treasures all across Khazalgar.
Nothing you wouldn't
So
have
delves
done for
are
me.
an evergreen feature that is
At your
really
service.
integrated into that outdoor
You
world
wouldn't have
experience.
done for
We
me.
want delves to be a new pillar of endgame content for those outdoor world explorers. We really view this as something like when we added World Quests back in Legion, where they are going to be really integrated and transformative into that outdoor world, especially that endgame loop. So one of the main reasons I'm stoked about delves is that these will provide an opportunity for us to, give seasonal content and rewards to those outdoor world explorers. So that means things like, rewards that you're used to, like mounts, achievements, titles, but we'll also be adding a outdoor row to the Great Vault with War Within. So that all of you outdoor world explorers will be able to share in the joy of, rushing to the Great Vault every week to collect your loot. And there will also be 13 unique delves that we'll be launching War Within with. And delves will scale from 1 to 5 players and be role agnostic. So that means if you want to play a delve solo, that's totally cool. If you want to go with you and your partner, that works as well. Or you can bring your whole dungeons group in, and the delves will scale based on your group size and your roles. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of my favorite features of delves, which I think Maria alluded to earlier, which is that there will be an NPC companion joining you on all of your adventures. So for Season 1, that'll be Bran Bronzebeard, as you can see. And Bran will be tagging along with you on all of your delve adventures and will totally never, not even once, aggro a pack of monsters that you didn't want him to. And I don't have my fingers crossed behind my back right now. So Bran will have a customizable talents and mechanics and abilities that you'll be able to kind of load out to suit your playstyle and needs. So, maybe you need a little bit of extra healing. Well, you can load Bran out to provide that for you. And finally, you wouldn't be exploring with the Dragonscale expedition if at the end of every delve there wasn't this massive treasure trove that we need Bran to open for us, which hopefully brought a couple of keys to open some of the chests in there. But before Bran can open that vault for you, you'll need to maybe defeat a boss, maybe you'll solve a couple puzzles, something like that, and then Bran will be able to open that vault door for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's our next presentation. World of Warcraft Classic. What's next?
Let's talk about warbands. It's happening! across
and
all
I am
of those
one of the
characters.
2 lead software
So
engineers
the
on the
goal of this
World of
system
Warcraft
is
Classic.
really to be that representation of the philosophy
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier about
Today,
really
I will be
respecting the
joined
time
by
of the
3
player
other
behind
of my
the keyboard
members
and not
of
those
the
individual characters. There's actually a ton of additions and modifications. We've talked about a few here. There's no like singular UI screen that says warbands. It's more of like all these modifications and updates and features are like kind of wearing a big coat that says warbands on the back of it. It's how I kind of keep it straight in my head. But just to talk about a couple of those cool features, we'll actually be revisiting the transmog rules of how you acquire those appearances in the War Within. So for all of you who have So that means all of you who have probably had to run 4 characters through all of those legacy instances just to make sure you're collecting all the appearances, that won't be the case anymore in War Within. You'll just be able to run it with 1 character. And oh yeah, Holly mentioned this already, but this is obviously one that people are looking forward to. All of our reputations as well as renown in the War Within will be shared across your entire account. Last but not least, let's talk about hero talents. So here's a quick mock-up of what the UI will look like that I think really helps explain how these integrate into our current talent trees. But really quick, let's take a look at how this will work. So there will be 3 new hero talent trees per class, and 2 will be available per specialization that you can freely choose and swap between. And also, this is another evergreen feature. This is a system that we think is going to provide a vector of choice and customization for you and all of your classes, as well as create opportunities for us to really dig into some of those core class fantasies that are, so amazing. So hero talents will introduce these new, small, self-contained talent trees like you just saw in the UI. And the way I like to think about it is like, currently we have 2 types of talent points, right? We have class talent points and specialization talent points. And now in the War Within, there'll be a 3rd type called hero talent points. So let's look at a quick example, which hopefully explains it a little bit more. This is a warrior, as you can see. These are the 3 hero talent trees that they'll have available: Mountain Thane, Colossus, and Slayer. And as you can see in the top left, we have Protection, who will be able to choose between Mountain Thane and Colossus. Up on the right, you see Fury. Yep, that's right. Mountain Thane and Slayer are their options, and down at the bottom, Colossus and Slayer are their options. So this is how the majority of our classes are going to look in the War Within. The exception, of course, being Druids and Demon Hunters, who are a bit special, so theirs will look a little different. So let's take a look at how you'll unlock the system, as well as how it'll feel playing through as you're leveling through the War Within. So the system will automatically unlock at level 71, and it'll just kind of appear in your UI. You'll earn 1 talent point per level as you level from 71 to 80. And there are 10 talent points in total, with several choice nodes along the way. So I like to think of this as being similar to like the Legion artifact, where as you were leveling and progressing, you were making some choices along the way, but ultimately you're going to unlock the whole tree. And also, I want to be very clear here. These are extremely low friction to swap between those choice nodes, as well as to swap between the different hero talent trees. So, this should be very analogous to your current talent trees and will follow all the same rules that you used to there. So, at the start of a raid boss, before Mythic Plus starts, before an arena match kicks off, and anywhere in between. And to wrap us up, I wanted to show off a really quick video of what hero talents look like in action. So this is a warrior, as you can see, popping avatar, jumping in. And this next one is that same warrior with the Mountain Thane talent tree. As you can see, Stormbolt hits multiple targets. There's a couple cool new V effects, and a lot of other cool stuff going on there as well. I heard some oohs. Our effects artists would be happy. So that about wraps us up for our What's Next panel. We hope you really liked what you saw here, and if you'd like to know more, please join us tomorrow at the Deep Dive panel at noon, where Ian will walk you through some of what you saw today in more detail. Woo, Ian! as well as a bunch of other cool new stuff in the War Within. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great BlizzCon. Bye!
Welcome back, BlizzCon. We're starting the day off right. Here's the World of Warcraft Deep Dive.
Good afternoon, BlizzCon! So good to be back. Whether you are here in the arena with me right in front of me, whether you're watching from elsewhere in the halls, whether you're joining us from the comfort of your home, thank you for taking the time to join me for this deeper, closer look at what's coming next in the War Within. I love you too! I love you, BlizzCon. So Morgan and Maria gave you kind of a sneak peek at some of what's coming. Today I want to spend a bit more time giving you more information on the core features of War Within, as well as a few things that didn't get mentioned at all yesterday. So, beginning, just a little teaser there. So, to begin, let's talk delves. So, what is a delve? As you heard yesterday, delves are these quick, bite-sized, epic adventures for flexible-sized groups, so either solo or with up to 5 players. They are role agnostic, so it doesn't matter if you're a couple DPS, if you're a healer and a tank, if you're a solo healer, we're gonna make it work, we're gonna meet you where you are, how you want to play. Delves are a new endgame pillar. This is a permanent addition to World of Warcraft going forward and represents kind of a capstone to the outdoor world experience. We've had dungeons, we've had raids, we've had organized PvP, and I think we've had some stuff for outdoor world players to dabble in. But if you wanted progression, if you wanted goals, if you wanted a deeper, more structured experience, frankly, we were letting you down. We want to change that. That's what delves represent in World of Warcraft. So structuring this, really we want to approach it as something that you are going to be engaging in all season long, with variety and flexibility in how you approach it, and the replayability of the content is kind of a mainstay of what it's all about. But also want to build in progression. And I think if you're an outdoor world focused player, a lot of the time it's just about kind of spending your time doing a thing, going to a place, completing an event, but there aren't necessarily goals to work towards. There aren't necessarily reasons to be excited about getting an item upgrade because it's going to let you do something you haven't been able to do before. A difficulty progression built into delves is going to enable us to offer that. Now, there's a lot of lessons we've learned over the years from building this type of content, whether it was Torghast in Shadowlands, Island Expeditions, scenarios, you can throw in Horrific Visions in that list. We've learned a lot about how to tune these sorts of experiences, how to design them for flexible scaling groups of different sizes and different role compositions, about what's fun and what isn't. But we've also learned, based on your feedback, about what not to do in some cases, in terms of how we structure it, how we present it. I think a key aspect of saying this is an endgame pillar is that it's an offering in parallel to the others, to dungeons, to raids. If you want to do this, if this is your jam, if this is your type of gameplay, we're there for you, and we want this to be as deep as you want it to be. If you're happy running Mythic Plus and you just want to focus on that, we're not looking to add another item to the checklist of things you feel you have to do to compete. It's an alternative. Unlike Torghast, which is something that, we did kind of say, everyone has to do this, whether you like it or not, whether you'd rather do something else or not. That gets back to some of the philosophies that Morgan touched on yesterday and how we're approaching designing and evolving World of Warcraft. We want to meet you where you are, we want to respect your time, we want to offer you the ability to choose how you want to spend that time each day, each night in Azeroth. So in terms of the character of delves and what a specific one will be like, the vibe here is about unraveling mysteries, it's about exploring, it's about feeling like an extension, a seamless extension of the outdoor world experience. These are not dungeons. Every dungeon is ultimately about killing a series of bosses or boss-like encounters, and the dungeon is over when you kill the final baddest boss at the end of the dungeon. And that's kind of the structure that they all have to conform to. As much as we try to vary the formula a bit, that's pretty much what they're going to be. In the outdoor world, things are a bit different. We can, break some more of the rules. And really, at the end of the day, the one consistent thing about delves is that they're all going to end with a room full of treasure. Some of those will have a final boss guardian in front of them. Others, you may be, just exploring, traversing the delve, flipping switches, solving a puzzle, defeating lieutenants, gathering things that you need to open the vault door. We can vary the gameplay, we can vary the feel of the experience. These are going to be instanced experiences, but they are seamless. When you walk up to, this, as I'll show in a second, a fog door at the entrance to a cave, at the entrance to a structure, you're just going to walk in, no loading screen, and now you're in a delve. You want to make sure this really feels like part of and an extension of the outdoor world. Now, as part of an in-game pillar, that means we're going to tie this into seasons. So, as well as a narrative progression over the course of a given season, there will be increasing rewards, increasing difficulty, and a change of pace, whether you're in Season 1 of War Within, Season 2, and so forth. Part of that is going to be the NPC companion that will be accompanying you on your adventures. The Season 1 companion, as we mentioned yesterday, is our good friend, Bran Bronzebeard. Now, what does this mean? What does a companion mean in practice? Well, it's a few things. One, it's definitely a narrative hook. It gives us a chance to help give context for your adventures, kind of narrate what you're going through. But also, it's a chance to kind of play with the mechanics and complement your playstyle. As Bran adventures with you, you might find some gear for Bran. You might be able to gear Bran up. You'll be able to spec him and customize his abilities to complement what you or your friends are bringing to the group. Whether you want more survivability, whether you want help with someone to tank, whether you want more control, this can help us balance the experience as well and give you another vector for your progression over the course of the journey. Now, I know this has kind of been very high level. I want to just give a couple of specific examples as kind of a day in the life of someone jumping into delves in War Within. So let's say you are casually journeying across the Isle of Dorne, its pastoral beauty, and you come across this structure with that fog door set into it, and you decide to venture in. So as you venture in, you are, as I mentioned, seamlessly in the delve, and you will find, just huddled inside the entrance, a group of expedition scouts who have come to this place. They've heard reports of great secrets, great treasures, powerful relics stored within, but they've been unable to proceed further. Because, they tell you, and Bran is among them, mind you, they tell you, this place, there's an unnatural, there's a disturbing darkness that has settled over this entire vault, and we can't proceed. Fortunately, they have in their possession a relic that they have brought that is an enchanted candle that can light the way. It has a little light radius around it. If you think back to the Vault of the Warden's dungeon, if you remember that in Legion, what the basement was like, where it really felt like just like a dark, scary place, but you could have this beacon in the darkness to guide your way, you have one of those. But, they tell you, it has very limited fuel. They dare not proceed on their own because they worry they're just going to get trapped in the darkness and destroyed by the terrors within. But you, of course, being the champion who's come along, you're up to the task. So you take that candle with its light radius that will begin to shrink progressively as your limited fuel burns, and you take some steps into the delve. Now, who do you find in here? Well, as it happens, you run across fellows like this guy. More jacked than your average kobold, but there's a lot of kobolds in here. And as you know, as any World of Warcraft player knows, where you find kobolds, you're going to find candles. And this guy's going to put up a fight, but it being World of Warcraft and all, you're going to take his candle. And you're going to take the candles of his allies and his brethren. And, that will help fuel this magic light that you have, help keep the light burning so that you can traverse the entire delve, defeat a couple of lieutenant-type enemies, bosses, solve a puzzle or two, and at the end, you make your way into the vault room that Bran is able to open once you bring him there, and you find this mock-up, work in progress of a treasure room, heaping with riches, treasure chests of various shapes and sizes. Some of the smaller ones, you can just walk up and open, collect a range of items, currency, rewards, you name it. But you'll find a couple of extra large resplendent chests in this room. Those may require special keys to open. Now those keys you would obtain from doing kind of outdoor content, weekly quests. They're a bit more limited in how you can get them, but also allow us to offer and pace out the best rewards. They're on par with some other endgame content to make sure it's not, infinitely grindable or anything like that, but it's an extension of your outdoor world loop if this is your playstyle. Now, let's say you come back to the same delve on another day. You might find that there isn't a magical darkness settled over the place. Instead, there are earthen locked in battle with kobolds, and you can help turn the tide of that fight as you work your way through, dealing with some different challenges along the way. Variety, replayability, lots of layers to the experience. Now, so you venture back out into the zone, heading off to a different corner of it, and you come across this cave surrounded by mushrooms. It's known in legends as fungal folly.